Assalamu alaikum everyone. How are you? I hope you are fine. Today we will going to discuss about mimicry in Papilio that is controlled by more than one genetic locus. Papilio is actually referred as butterflies. Cool. So what is mimicry? Mimicry is a phenomenon or a character that one organism copy or adopting the characteristics of another organism. Easy. So before jumping into the topic, I want to clear some basic concepts to you. That what is loci and all that multilocus for your convenience. So focus here. Locus is the position where alleles are present on the chromosome. This is my one chromosome. This is one locus. All right. And this is my other homologous chromosome. It's pair. And alleles are always present in the form of pairs in the diploid 2N organisms. Cool. Let's say this is my A allele and this is my another A1 or any other allele. We discussed the cases before when we used natural selection and studied the topics related to one locus characteristics. We just take one locus, but in this particular topic we will see the characteristics that are controlled by many locus. Now focus here, there is a difference between many alleles and many locus. If this particular, I will talk about this particular one locus, this particular locus may have many alleles. That suppose for your example, for your convenience, I take the example of height. That height is controlled by many locus. Let's say that a single locus, the height, the alleles for the heights are present only in one single locus. Let's say there is a combination of a1, a1, a2, a3, a4, all are the alleles that are controlling height. All right. So these all are the alleles that control the height. But in a particular diploid organism, if in particularly one locus case we see that I take this a allele and this a1 allele from all of these combination, so the particular organism may have height 4 inches. Cool. But there is a difference between a trait that is controlled by many loci. In this case, let's say a trait that we will study in our topic in detail, mimicry. Cool. Let's say five loci are involving that are controlling a particular single trait. Single trait is controlled by the many locus alleles, not multi alleles that are present in one locus case. Cool. So we are studying about the traits that are controlled by the multi-locus alleles. This particular allele, these are multi alleles, but we see that they are present for a particular locus, a diploid organism. Height, I already explained that for height we choose from all of the combinations the two particular alleles. All right, there are many alleles that are present, so easy. But in this particular mimicry case, we see that many locus alleles are controlling only one single trait. Let's suppose this is T, this is C, this is W, etc. Okay. So now we will start our topic. In this topic is very easy, very interesting. In this topic, we will discuss the special character mimicry in Papilio in butterflies. The swallowtails have a global distribution and Papilio is the largest genus of them. Their most striking characteristic is a tail. This is the tail. This is the tail of the butterfly. The Papilio species have a special character, the swallowtails, that these butterflies have tail. You see the tail. But not in all species. Some may not have tails. Cool? So they are globally distributed. Swallowtail butterflies come in many colors: greens, shades of reds, orange, and marble patterns, white and gray. But the commonest type has the stripes of black and yellow, called tiger swallowtail or Papilio glaucus. That is its scientific name. Its female, called Papilio nigra, has black with red spots on its hind wings. This species is not poisonous, but it mimics pipe-vine swallowtail Batis philnor, which is poisonous. So you see this butterfly, this beautiful butterfly, this has the tiger-like wings. And basically, this is actually mimicking the skin of the tiger to avoid predation, basically, because if a bird or any other organism see it from the far, it may assume, that particular organism may assume that there might be possible that tiger is present here, tiger is sitting over some grasses or anywhere else. All right, so it's female. Now this is the male part. This same species in female form, Papilio nigra. This is Papilioglycus. That is the female. That is the male part, and its female called Papilio nigra has black with red spots on its hind wing. Now that particular female butterfly is basically mimicking a butterfly that is very poisonous, very dangerous, and the birds already know that this is Batis. This butterfly is very dangerous, and this is Papilio nigra, and it basically mimicking this dangerous butterflies. All right. So it if you see the wings, basically it's adopting this particular butterfly's characteristic. So this butterfly in itself is not dangerous, but copying itself, mimicking the dangerous butterfly, make it easy for the female. Cool. And birds don't prey upon them. That I already explained. Now move to the next point. This is another case, Papiliomemnon. You need to learn these characteristics. There would be chances that the characteristics of Papiliomemnon might come into your exam. So Papiliomemnon is another case in which the male is deep blue in color and have black strips. See this photo. This is the Papiliomemnon male part, male organism. You see the deep blue background and with stripes on it. Their forewings show the Papiliomemnon females come in almost numberless variety. Their females, particularly their females, have numberless variety. Focus here. The female basically in the butterflies, in the Papilio species, the females basically mimic a lot. And there are a number of varieties in their forewings, in their hind wings. They adopt many varieties of patterns and many organisms, many dangerous organisms. Basically, they mimic their skin or their cells on their wings to avoid predation. So the females come in almost numberless varieties. Their forewings show different geometric patterns of black and white. Their hind wings as well as, you know, the hind wings and forewings. These are the hind wings, these are the forewings, and these are the hind wings, and these are the tails. So their hind wings, as well as varying in shape, can be colored in yellow, orange, or blood red. You see the shape variation. This is concave shape. This is some other shape. You see there would be a difference in the shape. See, this is another Papiliomemnon. See, it adopting many different variations, colors. That is very beautiful. They may or may not have a bright white spot. These are the bright white spots. Some have tails, others do not. Cool. The abdomen varies in color, and the spot at the butterfly's shoulder at the base called epaulet may be present in various shades of reds. This is the epaulet. This is the epaulet. This vary in the shades of reds. This is the sparkling characteristics of the Papilio family. Now move to the next point. This is the scientific work done by the two scientists, Clark and Shepard. They suggested that each female mimics a different model. I already explained this. Clark and Shepard were interested in the geometric control of this complex mimetic polymorphism. Polymorphism means many different forms. You see how many forms this butterfly copying and mimicking. Crosses between the various morphs initially suggested that a single genetic locus with many alleles is at work. See, I already explained, a single genetic locus with many alleles. That is different than many locus alleles that are work. Initially, the scientists suggested that in this case, only one locus with many alleles is basically controlling this mimicry pattern. Maybe for this mimicry condition, A1 allele is controlling, and for this mimicry pattern, A2 allele is controlling, and for this mimicry pattern, A3 is controlling. And if a butterfly have the A1, A3 combination, this type of pattern will form. And if if the butterfly have the combination A2 A4, this pattern will form, A5 A6, this pattern will form. But they considered that these all traits are controlled by the one locus. That is their mistake. And then they realize, how they realize, we will see that this is not the case, this is not actual case, because offspring usually contain one of the parents character after the cross. How they come to know that the single locus is controlling? Because every time they crosses, the parents and their offsprings have the one of their parents character, so they assume that, so they consider it that the one particular locus alleles are in the playing their role, just like the dominant recessive case. This suggests that the same phenomena is controlling like one dominant and the other recessive. Like we see, if we consider A1 and A2 alleles, and among them we say A1 is dominant and A2 is recessive, if we get the combination in the offspring A1 A2, we will consider it that A1 will be dominant, so its characteristics will be appear in the offspring, one of the parents characteristic in the offspring. We saw so many examples of dominant recessive case in our previous lectures. So move to the next point. When they studied A neura species, this interpreted that A neuron's morphology mixes. Now, how they notice the difference? This is the case, A neuron's case. The two scientists that are working on the butterfly papilio mimicry characteristics, Clark and Shepard, they get another case on their observation. Someone sent them the A neurons butterfly to their laboratory, and then they started working on it. The A neurons particularly have a very remarkable characteristic: their morphology. Their morphology have mixed patterns from two of the common morphs. It has the wing color pattern of the morph Achates, but it lacks Achates tail. Now Achates is the butterfly that belongs from the swallowtail, cool, Papilio family, and they have tail, I already explained. Clark and but the anurans have the wings like Achates, but they don't have tail on it. Clark and Shepard interpretation is that anurans is not an allelic variant but a recombinant. Now recombinant is the mixture. Recombinant, in recombinant we don't see, or it means recombinant is the mixture of two separate species or two separate populations. Let's say I have species one, one butterfly belongs to species one, and another butterfly that belongs to species two. I make the cross of these two, and the offspring I get from that is called recombinant. But if the original parents are mating, that is the normal offsprings. All right, there is no recombination. The same species parents are mating. So do you understand what is recombinant actually is? Recombinant is the mixture of the two different species. In that, anurin is not an allelic variant. Alleles are not basically involved in its variation. This variation comes from the recombination by the mating of different populations species, or different species in sense. Don't assume that frog is mating with horse. Don't consider it like that. If I told you the different species or different populations, basically the butterflies are mating. The same butterflies are mating, but with different species, not with different genus, not with different. So they're almost same. Two different butterflies are mating, but with different classes, with different populations. Variant, but a recombinant, and that mimetic patterns of P. memnon are not controlled by one locus, but by a whole set of loci. This is what they interpreted from the A neurons case. See, if you focus here, let me show you. If we focus here, what they interpret from the A neuron is that this is the chromosome in the offspring coming from the butterfly Achates, and this is the chromosome coming from in the offspring coming from any other butterfly that is tailless, any papilio butterfly that is tailless. So if you remind the Mendel's law of Mendel laws of genetics, what it says in the offspring there is independent assortment. So if these are the loci with alleles that are controlling the wings pattern and the tail is basically also playing role in the mimicry. You see the wings and the tail and the body colors all are changing, all have variation. See, so they play role in the mimicry. Let's say this is T, this is E, this is C, any other names you can recognize to it. Basically my concept is in the offspring we get this is my zygote, this is my zygote. Zygote is 2n diploid and independent. Because of the independent assortment there is T, E, P, F, Q, multiple loci are controlling one trait, that is mimicry. So the independent chances, maybe this allele, this locus not come into the zygote, or and this locus come into the zygote, this locus allele come into the zygote, this locus allele may not come into the zygote from the parent. See, these are the parents. Okay, don't these are the parents, these are the parents, these are the chromosomes of the parents, and this is my zygote chromosome that is forming from their combination. So there are the independent chances of these from this case. From this is the T, this is this is also some T1, T2, T minus. The T is controlling the tail. Basically, let's suppose T is controlling the tail. This loci has the genes that T plus. T plus means the tail is present, and this loci controlling that T is not, tail is not present in the next generation. So by the law of independent assortment, these both have the equal chances in the next generation. This may be, there may be possible that in the zygote the tail genes that are coming may don't have tail. All right, so independent assortment is working here. When we study this you will get more clear. Clark and Shepard interpretation is that A. neurone is not an allelic variant but a recombinant, and the mimetic patterns of P. memnon are not controlled by P. memnon, also the name of the papilio that we butterfly, are not controlled by the one locus but a whole set of loci. If A neurone is recombinant, then there must be at least one locus, say T, controlling the presence allele T positive or absence T minus of the tail, and at least one other locus C that is controlling the color pattern, C1 for AKITs and C2, C3 alleles for other color morphs. The patterns variation in the wings due to the colors. Color, that suppose this C1 controls blue color, C3 orange color, C2 controlling yellow color in the wings. AKITs would have a genotype made up of one or two sets of the two locus genotype T plus C1, and A neura would have T minus C1. AKITs may have this combination T plus C1 in the offsprings. AKITs may have this combination. No, AKITs have T plus C1 combination and A neura have T minus C1 combination. See that they have the same wing colors, same, the wings are same, that we discussed that A neura has the wings that are same like AKITs, but they're tailless. So this have the combination T positive C1, means the tail is present in AKITs, and this have the combination T minus C1. So basically the T is the gene that is controlling the presence or the absence of the tail, and C is the gene allele that controlling the color. So colors are the same, but difference arises because of this. So these are the recombinants. Recombination, due to the recombination, variation comes into the next offspring generation. After recombination between a tailless morph and AKITs. Cool. AKITs, I read it again. AKITs would have a genotype made up of one or two sets of the locus. That genotype T plus C1, and A neura would have T minus C1 after the recombination between a tailless morph and AKITs. So if we cross between T plus C1, that is AKITs, and any other butterfly, any other papilio that have this combination T minus that have this combination T minus C1, T minus genes is present on that butterfly. So in the next generation, in the cross between AKITs and that particular butterfly, A neura will form. That in A neura, the genes that come due to the law of independent assortment would be this T minus, this locus will come, not this locus. T plus locus will not come in the offspring in the A neura, but T minus will come. But C1 of the acates will come into the next offspring generation in the A neura. C1 basically that is the cross between another butterfly, another papilio and the acates. Yes, you are right. And that butterfly have various this T minus locus, and let's suppose, let's say C3 locus. But in the A neura, C1 comes from the acates and T minus locus comes from the any other butterfly. Yes, easy now. After a combination between a tailless morph, morph means butterfly, and acates. I hope everything is clear to you now. See, this is Anura, this is acates. This is, see, this has tail in it. More than 5 loci are involved in mimicry model. Here they say that more than that 2 loci are involved. But when they deeply studied about it, they said that the whole mimicry, the wings, the body, the tail, the everything is controlled by 5 loci. So from A neuron alone, at least 2 loci, at least means tail, and we see tail and the color, the 2 characteristics. So 2 particular characteristics are controlled by the 2 locus alleles. So from A neuron alone, at least 2 loci could be inferred to control the mimetic polymorphism. Polymorphism means the trait that is controlled by, yes, polymorphism is the trait that is controlled by many, yes, that the polymorphism is a condition that means many forms, variation in the forms. So polymorphism of P. memnon, but other rare morphs have also been found. These rare morphs, for example, combine the forewing color of one morph and the hindwing pattern of the another. So we are actually observing the recombinants here. Recombinants. This particular may be a butterfly with yellow, white wings, 4 wings, combined with the butterfly with yellow, red, or green wings. Maybe the yellow color controlling genes come from this particular butterfly, and a butterfly, suppose, let's say this is my first butterfly. I would call it first butterfly that have the wing patterns A, B, C. See, the A controlling yellow, B controlling blue, C controlling green. And my another butterfly, because we will see the recombination, it may have A for yellow, D for purple, and C for green. But when they cross and the offspring form, there are chances in the offspring A, B, A, D, and B form. A, D, and C offspring form. So there will be a variation. It has orange, purple, and yellow, purple, and green combination. This is the recombinant, the mixture of its parents. So everything is clear to you now. So a lot of variation in the butterflies we see in its wing and all these. So in this particular case, we only focus about the color. So tail is another factor that is involved in the mimicry. You see hind wings, fore wings, body. So P. memnon rare morphs, for example, combine the forewing color of one morph and the hindwing pattern of another, suggesting that separate loci controlling the color of fore and hind wings. When all the inferred combinations are considered together, at least 5 loci seem to be at work: T, W, F, E, and B. They control respectively, this control tail, this control hind wing color, this control forewing color, this control body color, and all, etc. So in the example that I gave to you, this example that I gave to you, this depends upon these are the alleles. This is present at number 1 loci, this is present at number 2 loci, this is present at number 3 loci. So many locus are involved and the alleles are controlling the variation. Cool. So in this case, in mimicry, the scientists inferred that 5 different locus alleles are involved, and they control respectively presence or absence of tail, hind wing pattern, forewing pattern, epaulet color, and body color. The A neuron morph is a recombinant between the T locus and the other four. So other four are also involved. T, W, F, E, and B. If you have to come that if that A neuron is controlled by 2 locus, no, A neuron is also controlled by the 5 locus. Their wings and their all things are controlled by the 5 locus. The tail locus, T locus, and the other four are also present. The common morphs which mimic natural models should each consist of a particular set of alleles at the 5 loci. Particular loci, particular alleles. You see, this particular number one butterfly has this particular alleles, this number two has this particular, all butterflies have their particular alleles, but in the recombination, in their in the cross, when they mate, and after the recombination we see a lot of variation. Cool. The morph mimicking model species number one, for example, might have genotype T plus W1, F1. You don't need to memorize this combination. You just need to have the concept. You just need to write this. If you don't remember this, don't worry about it. This is just an example. For example, might the genotype have this combination? This is number one, T plus means tail is present. W1 is the maybe any other color. F1, E1, B1, forewing, hind wing patterns are basically controlling by these locus genes. Patterns may involve blue, green, yet red color wings, front wings, and the back wings may be purple, green with marbling style or plain styling. Cool. And this another has this combination. And another morph mimicking a second model might have this combination. You see, these are the diploids. So two, two from this, two from this, and in other generation, maybe in the offspring, this combination comes from this butterfly. One chromosome contains this in the offspring, and one chromosome have this pattern. You see, the offspring, they presented this. So there is a lot of variation. Conclusion: the polymorphism in swallow polymorphism, there are many forms, and the variation in the butterflies in the swallowtails controlled by multi-locus genotype. I hope everything is clear to you now. And if you want to get the notes, I will put the link in the description box. If you have any confusion, do let me know in the comment section. Thank you.